Hello and welcome to Connect. I'm your host, Randy Shabilo. On today's show, we'll have Malcolm Young and Brent Wignes from the Remembrance Day Committee in Saskatoon, as well as Lieutenant Commander Michael Sue talking about the 100th anniversary of the Naval Reserve in Canada. As always, we'd like to connect with you.
Follow us on Facebook at ConnectYXE, catch past interviews on YouTube, email us at connectyxe@gmail.com, or leave a message at 306-665-3796.
Remembrance Day ceremonies and the Poppy campaign are underway again. We have Malcolm Young and Brent Wignes here from the Legion. Thank you both for coming down to the studio. Why don't you maybe talk about the Poppy campaign first, Brent, if you can give us some background on what's launching and what we can expect.
Yeah, it's the time of the year for the Poppy campaign to get started. It's to recognize, the whole long issue is to recognize our veterans, and rightly so, they should be recognized. So we usually start off, first of all, asking the city for a proclamation for them to declare Veterans Week, which is November 5th to the 11th this year, and also a proclamation to give us an inside on what's going to happen with the Poppy launch, because they have been very helpful in us having the Poppy launch at City Hall from now on. For many years we were outside, kind of in the cold, and so it was not always the best weather. Now we've been invited inside, and of course the important part is to start the Poppy launch. The first Poppy will go to Mayor Charlie Clark. And then after that has been done, the next day, on the Saturday after, that's when we start dispersing the poppies and the pots, and our volunteers go out and sit at tables and that sort of thing to make everybody aware of it's the Remembrance Day season. So after that, then comes the Remembrance Day service. And it's a very big event. We have the acclamation that we have been the biggest indoor Remembrance Day service in the country. COVID made quite a difference in it, but we found last year was our first time back at the Saskatoon Centre, and the numbers were actually quite reasonable. We were happy, and I think we'll get more people coming back. So.
When you look at the Poppy campaign, you have volunteers across Canada that are taking of their time and donating time to sell the poppies. Is there a suggested donation or an amount that you'd like to see?
No, it's strictly a donation. We're very happy to, even if somebody hasn't got a cent in their pocket and they ask for a poppy, they will receive a poppy, because it's not so much the monetary thing, although that's what we use to help out our veterans. It's the remembrance part of it. They're an active part of remembrance.
Maybe that's a good segue into the fundraising that does happen. So when the donations are made for the Poppy campaign, is there a fund that's set up to use those monies that are
There is a Poppy trustee committee, so all the monies that come in, it's actually the 3 legions, and the Army and Navy also is part of that committee. We actually, the Army and Navy and the 3 branches of the Legion coordinate for everything jointly when it comes to Remembrance Day and a Remembrance Day service. So
it's great to see that recognition, I guess, coming back.
Yeah, it is. And the monies are well dispersed. The committee will look at some of the requests they get, but it's all for veterans or their dependents. And we're looking at some of the older veterans, whether it's housing or medical, all types of things. The newer age veterans that are coming out, there's all kinds of programs available mostly within the provinces and within the country itself. There's some major programs there. You have Paws for Veterans, which is a guide dog for sight and disability that they use. There's the home improvement grants. There's the training for our veterans that come out now. If they're leaving the service, they're coming out, they don't know where to go, they have opportunities for education or work placement, to learn, how to get a trade. So there's very many ways that we help every age of veterans.
So simple, but all-inclusive, I think, for
It is.
a wide host of people.
It's a countrywide program.
Right.
That's what the Remembrance Day service is all about. It's the whole country. So
I guess, Malcolm, to talk about that Remembrance Day service that's coming up November 11th, it's a Saturday this year. Can you shed some light on what's going to happen this year that we can expect?
Yeah, so very much. As we all know, November 11th has been a sacred and special day in the history of our country, going back to the First World War, post-World War I. The reality is that for us, we build a program, of which within that program is the act of remembrance service or ceremony, and that's the critical part of this. It's the 11th month, 11th day, 11th hour ceremony that takes place each year on November 11th. But in Saskatoon, we've been very fortunate that the citizens of Saskatoon have responded in significant numbers to attend our service, as well as those who can't attend, viewing it online on Shaw Access, Channel 105 as an example, as well as on our online site, which is www.saskatoonremembers.ca, where it's also broadcast live at the time of the service, as well as the service itself for those who can't see it or make it at that time on November 11th. They're able to view it online later on at that website I just mentioned. This year's program really focuses on 3 anniversaries of sorts. Each year we select either a veteran, a unit, or an anniversary that commemorates a moment in Canadian military history, which is both deep as well as, I think, the kind of education that our citizens need. And so what we do is we highlight a veteran, a unit, or an anniversary, as I mentioned. And so this year is the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Navy Volunteer Reserve. During the Second World War, a substantial part of the Canadian Navy, which was the 4th biggest navy during the Second War, was made up of naval reservists. And that trend carries on today. So we're commemorating the 100th anniversary of the Naval Reserve. We're pleased to say that Chief Petty Officer, First Class retired Jim Dockstader will be one of our veterans receiving the compliments of the parade. Jim is a veteran of both the RCN, joining in 1949, as well as a Korean War veteran. And then when he came back to Canada, he joined the HMCS Unicorn, and so had a long military career in the naval force. In addition to that, we're also commemorating the 150th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, because many people do not know that the RCMP actually has, once again, an active and rich contribution to Canada's military history as well. Boer War, First and Second World War, and then post those wars, the RCMP has deployed members on NATO, UN, and bilateral missions around the world. And so we're giving the RCMP their recognition this year as well. And then finally, it's the 30th anniversary of the Battle of Medak Pocket. Very few people know that over 46,000 Canadians served in the former Yugoslavia from about 1991 through to the early 2000s. Of that, 26 were killed in service. Those early years in Yugoslavia, the early 90s, were some of the most horrific experiences for young Canadian soldiers at any point in time in our history. And the Medak Pocket, which took place in September of 1993, really is emblematic of what our young Canadians saw there. The level of ethnic cleansing, the inhumane treatment by citizens of each other, the consequences of an ongoing war, but under the umbrella of the United Nations mission, which was restrictive in terms of what the Canadians were able to do, has had a lasting effect on many of our Yugoslavian and veterans from that particular tour, which was Operation Harmony, Rotation 2 with the 2nd Battalion Prince's Protection Light Infantry. So it's the 30th anniversary of Medak Pocket, and we're commemorating a veteran from that engagement as well. This year as well, it's a little bit different. We're fortunate that we have a very active and supportive musical community. Every year, the Combined Orchestras, Salvation Army Band and Combined Orchestra plays in support of our service. And this year, we're going to be joined by Honorary Colonel Lorena McKinnott. Lorena McKinnott, for those of you who may be musically inclined in this country, is an internationally recognized vocalist, recognized all over the world and tours all over the world. But she's also an honorary colonel with the Royal Canadian Air Force and has been since 2006. She has a deep connection to the Canadian military, very supportive in many ways. She's a member of the Order of Canada at the commander level, Order of Manitoba, as well as received the Canadian Forces Decoration for her work with the military. And she happens to be in November 11th here in Saskatoon. When she's home in Stratford on November 11th, she sings in that service because she is a Royal Canadian Legion member, and she sings "O Canada" and "God Save the King," and she'll do so for us this year. So that's a bit of a change. I would encourage all citizens of Saskatoon to come down on November 11th to SaskTel Centre to view this year's service. As a 32-year veteran of the Armed Forces myself, someone who's deployed overseas, someone whose family has been serving this country since 1900, the poppy, which Brent mentioned, is extremely important to me personally. Seeing each and every citizen of our community wearing a poppy is important to me as a veteran, I know is to other veterans as well. Not just to show respect for the service and sacrifice of our fallen, those who are no longer with us, but those who still live amongst us who are veterans and our serving members. Also, I think wearing the poppy is something else. It shows respect to what Canada represents. We are in a very tumultuous time in this world right now. And there are many, many countries that do not, have never had, and probably, unfortunately, never will have the stability that we have as Canadians, and we should never take that for granted. And it's through the efforts of members of the Canadian Forces, past, present, and future, that democracy will continue to be upheld, both here in Canada, as well as supported around the world. And so the poppy is a symbol and a sign of respect, both for our veterans, but also for what our country represents. So I'd ask everyone to come to the service if they can. Doors open at 9. The pre-parade program starts at 9:45. The parade starts at 10:30. We'll be wrapped up shortly after 11:30. And we'd ask you to come down, pay respects, and to remember. SaskTel Centre, Saturday, November 11th. If you can't make it to the service, join us on Shaw Access, Channel 105, or www.saskatoonmembers.ca.
I think that's the least we can do, and thank you both for your service to our country. We hope to see Saskatoon once again break the record for the largest indoor attendance of a Remembrance Day ceremony across Canada. So thank you for the work that you do, and to all the volunteers. We'll see you on Saturday the 11th.
Thank you very much.
Good. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.